How many people do you reckon you see per day? How many different people do you see every single day? I think for the most part, if you're listening to this video, you're probably living in some sort of city, in a dense kind of living suburb or city or whatever the case might be. You're living where there's a lot of people living. I think the majority of, am I saying this correctly? The majority of people that are at least listening to this, using YouTube, using social media, are probably living in the cities. And so every single time you see somebody, it's like another data point to your memory. And so you go day in, day out, you see all these different people, all these different shapes, sizes, postures, movement patterns. You're constantly receiving this information when you see somebody walk past, whether you are actively thinking about whether they have knee valgus, whether they have a Trendelenburg gait, or whatever the case might be, whether you know the definitions of some of these things or not. You're seeing lots and lots of different bodies and how they move. And occasionally we see somebody who moves really well. And whether you understand the mechanics behind it, it kind of sticks out to you. You think, wow, that guy looks impressive for some reason. You don't really know why, but kind of they look good. It could be because they have not rounded shoulders. If you think about how many people in your life that you see actually don't have rounded over shoulders. How many people have retracted scapulars, tall, heads, like somebody's pulling a string on the top of their head up, full strong postures. How many people like that do you see? Occasionally you see somebody like, that person is athletic, or that person over there is really, really strong. This person over here, the way they walk, they look like they can jump. There's a guy that works at the hospital. I know, I've met him, and I know of him, and I know he played basketball as a youth in his early 20s. I think he still plays, but he's not so professional anymore. He's a nurse, and he played quite high level, much higher level than me. Like, he was actually like a proper, almost professional basketball player. He actually turned out a professional contract because the nursing was paying him more in Australia. As funny as that freaking sounds. But it turned out a professional contract here in the NBL back some 15 years ago, 20 years ago, something like that. And the way he walks is really interesting. Like, he walks essentially on his tippy toes. So he walks past and he looks like he's bouncing on his tippy toes. Now, that's unlike anybody else that I see in that hospital walk. He walks like he's got calves. If somebody that has next to no calves won't walk like that. He won't use that muscle like that. The body's always seeking to be lazy. The body's always seeking a path of least resistance. And so if something is really hard, it's not going to do it subconsciously. That dude is walking on his calves. So probably his calves are jacked as hell. And he was pretty athletic when he was younger, and it's kind of carried him on. I'll tell you about another guy. There's a paramedic that comes in. I see him maybe, 3-4 times a year. I don't see him often. I think he's a pretty senior paramedic. But he comes in and he looks jacked. I mean, even through the shirt, the jumper that he has, whatever that they wear, he looks jacked. And a few times I've noticed that he rolls his sleeves up and he's got these big old forearms. Like, he's got traps as well. You can see the lats, even through the clothing. Like, you can see that this man carries himself in a certain way. The way he moves, the way he slides people from the stretcher to the barouche. He just carries himself differently. It's funny in a way. Like, I don't know that guy. Like, I know the basketball, but I don't know that guy. But automatically I feel like, I think I like that guy. Like, I'll get along with him. We have a topic to talk about. There's a common ground there. It's so interesting. You can just see somebody across the damn room. You don't even know their name. And you're like, yeah, I'll get along with that dude. And why do I say that? Well, when you see somebody who is physically well presented, they didn't get that at the shop. They didn't get it at university after they got a good degree and then a good salary. Their mummy or daddy didn't give them $1 million. They didn't buy it through that. When you see somebody carrying a lot of muscle, good posture, they look athletic, there's only one way they would have gotten that. And no, it's not by doing all those other things or sitting on the couch, eating chips or whatever. you know that that body has been through hundreds, thousands, if not tens of thousands of hours of work. And straight away, that person has credibility. It's like a doctor wearing the PhD, all of the papers on his forehead. It's like when you see a surgeon walk past in common clothes, in casual clothes, you don't know he's a surgeon. You got no idea. But when a bodybuilder walks past, you're like, well, that dude lifts. It's like the credentials are like in your face. Or another obvious thing, if you see a basketball player, 7-footer, walk past, you're like, that guy probably plays basketball. Whether he plays or not, you kind of get the feeling like tall people play basketball. You know, so there's a few things that give people away, you know. And if you have a really, really trained eye, after a little while, you see somebody in the gym, you're like, that guy's strong. That guy isn't strong. You know, it's really weird how that happens, especially when you've been around the game for a little while. Like, a lot of people look at me and they think like, well, he doesn't look like he lifts. You know, he doesn't look fit. He doesn't look strong. He doesn't look like anything. But maybe there's somebody out there who sees me move and who knows the game. He's like, yeah, that guy's strong. Because the way he moves, the way he carries himself, the way he just, you know, carries his frame, you know. It's a really, really interesting thing. And, you know, this is going to sound funny, but I'm a people watcher. You know, I don't stare at people. But, you know, I like to watch people. Like, you know, I'm a nurse, man. Like, you know, people always say don't judge people or whatever. My job is to judge people. When I'm at triage, I look at somebody from the moment they're walking from the front door to my window, I've already done most of my assessment. What do you mean, Ivan? What does that mean? I pay attention to everything. It's almost subconscious at this point. How are they walking? What's their posture like? What's their breathing rate like? Are they looking around? Are they anxious? Are they nervous? What color are they? And that's not a racial thing. I'm talking about, do they have pallor? Or how will I describe pallor? Like, are they pale? Do they look anemic? What's the complexion like? You know, if somebody's bleeding out, they're going to have a certain kind of ashen tone to their color, regardless of where they come from or what their ancestry is. There's a certain way that they look. Do they nasal? What do you call them? Do they flare? Are they tripoding? So tripoding is like this thing that you describe, or asthmatics or people that are really short of breath. They kind of like, you know, put their hands on their knees and they kind of like prop their, almost do like a shrug with their traps, kind of like lift, you know, prop their, you know, shoulders up to make it easier for their lungs to expand. Are they using accessory muscles? Are they doubled over and grabbing or guarding the abdomen? The list goes on and on. And before I've even touched them, before I even talk to them, I've already got a lot of information. You know, are they sweaty? That's a huge thing. If somebody's sweaty, like diaphoretic, pale, clutching at their chest, that is a high concern before you even, you know, if you see somebody like that clutching their chest, they're pale and diaphoretic, you don't need to know anything about them other than, can I please have your driver's license so I can book you onto the system? Please come with me. Pretty much that's all you really need, because they probably need to get urgent help, right? You can't fake diaphoresis, like you can't fake sweating and looking pale. You can't fake that. And so in the same way, you know, I go through my nursing career, you know, every time I look at somebody that I walk past through the corridor, you know, when I'm shift coordinating or whatever the case might be, when I'm like a team leading, you know, I'm walking through the corridor and I'm looking into every room. And you just take a picture, you know, you look 2 seconds, like a split second, you look at the person, move on, look at the person, move on. And through that split second, you know, in basketball, we say take a picture, like when you're running down a fast break, let's say, and you turn back for a split second. You're basically taking the picture of everything behind you, and you know if that guy's going to have enough speed on him. Is he? Is he tall? Is he going to be able to pin you to the backboard? Like, is he going to be able to block the shot? That kind of stuff. So same thing in nursing. You walk and you look at somebody, you're already kind of getting information, getting that data. How do they look? The same way I do that with like everyday people. I look at somebody, I'm like, well, that guy is slouched over as crazy. like fully slashed over. That guy looks like he hasn't freaking done a push-up in his life. You can almost see that. Even like if you shake somebody's hand, that's another good one. You shake somebody's hand and it's all sweaty and soft and looks like that guy's never lifted anything more uncomfortable than a pen. That's not an athletic person, man. Like that guy's not gonna have a big bench press. You know what I mean? Like, now these things are not 100% clear-cut, absolute certainties, but it gives you a feeling, right? And these two guys that I told you about, the nurse and the paramedic, it's like, I'll see that guy and I'm like, I get along with him because he has a physical history. He's done something with his body. He's developed his physique, his athleticism. It's a really, really cool thing. And so before you even communicate with people, you know who your people are. If you see a guy with a wide back, man, he's done some rows, man, he's done some pull-ups. Let's talk about that. You know what I mean? It's like a rare thing where you can pick your people without even having to talk. Isn't that cool? I think that's freaking cool. Appreciate you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.